Hi, I'm Max. Gaming is a huge part of my life, and every now and then I notice a level that leaves such an impression on me that when I look back on the game it's in, that level immediately comes to mind before anything else. In what I hope to expand into a series of videos, I want to take a look at some of those moments and figure out what about them from a design perspective makes them so memorable to me. I'm certainly not a game designer, just a guy who really loves games, and if you're watching this video, you probably do too. I want to start by taking a look at Journey, developed by that game company and released on the PlayStation Network in the spring of 2012. This is a game that I feel would best be experienced without knowing much about it beforehand, so any viewers who have not yet played it are strongly recommended to do so before watching the rest of the video. There aren't any narrative spoilers, but the level I'd like to talk about is one that I enjoyed so much the first time I played it, partly because it was such a pleasant surprise. The level I'll be focusing on here is the third level after the tutorial, the Sunken City, which I feel is best understood in the context of the two levels before it and the one that follows it. Part of what makes the level so great to me is that while it's an exceptionally good level on its own, I find that I appreciate it even more when I consider it alongside the other early levels in the game, so I want to start from the beginning. After completing the tutorial and moving through the hub area, you will enter the first level wherein you can meet another player, in which the two of you are tasked with activating a series of cloth bridges to reach the exit. This is simple to complete and doesn't require direct interaction between the two players if they don't want any, and it is set in a wide box canyon free for exploration, sort of a literal sandbox. It doesn't really force the two players to interact, but gives them opportunities to reach out and introduce themselves to one another. The devs understood that two people who have just met will likely not know one another well enough to coordinate effectively to perform a complicated, involved task, and don't make any design decisions that would require a great deal of coordination and therefore frustrate the new players. The second level is the next logical step up from that, and is designed to encourage the players to interact more with each other while exploring the Pink Sands. I like to think of it almost like the first time two new friends spend time together after they've met. The level is a wide open expanse of desert with isolated ruins strewn throughout with scarf upgrades and glyphs, encouraging the two wanderers to explore together and show one another what they might already know of the level. Meeting the cloth creatures in the desert accents this theme by playfully pulling them along toward points of interest. The soft colors and playful atmosphere present there give way to a sense of foreboding as the players reach the tower in the middle of a sandstorm, rising up it while freeing the cloth creatures stuck in the tower's mechanisms. This section almost seems to me like the players literally rising to the challenge presented to them, initiating the real task of moving onward toward the mountain's peak after having met one another. Once they reach the tower's apex, they're carried away by the cloth creatures to the level that's the real focus of this video. Let's take a look at Sunken City for just a bit before we dive in. Okay, so Sunken City opens with the players gliding down onto the sand to begin surfing along, carried along by the wind. The sense of speed present here is brought into further focus as it stands in contrast to the slower, more deliberate movement present in the earlier stages of the game, an intentional design decision that works to draw the player in, immersing and engaging them with the events on screen. The player will have seen glimpses of this before, notably in the tutorial and the second co-op level when sliding down dunes, but never to this degree, which is emphasized by the billowing effect the wind has on the sand. The player is already familiar with that type of movement, but their attention is drawn back to it by how much the game amplifies it. In addition, the quick, upbeat music in the level contrasts even further with the slower music and natural sounds previously used to add a playful quality to the score and emphasize the fun inherent in the game's movement mechanics. Up until this point in the game, the music has been fairly slow-moving with a lot of long drones, meant to create atmosphere but not really pull focus. The increase in the score's speed stands in contrast to what comes before it, which draws the player's attention and pulls them into the game a little bit more. Additionally, the increase in tempo matches the faster movement in the level, which is a neat example of thematic consistency in design. Finally, I can't talk about Sunken City without touching upon the graphics. The visuals in the level work with the music and gameplay to draw the players in through the use of the game engine's ability to lend the sand a sparkling quality. This, when combined with the speed of the player's motion, creates a rapidly changing contrast between light and dark that grabs your attention and never really lets go. This is further emphasized within the level through the momentary pause to activate a well of scraps before returning to surfing. The short break makes this return another memorable moment for the player, as it turns what is initial disappointment in the end of a very well-utilized mechanic into relief as the player returns to it. Just as is the case with the gameplay and music, use of graphical contrast, both visual, light and dark, and thematic, fast versus slow, is key in this level to holding the player's attention. Also worth noting is that the brightest object in the whole level is the mountain's peak, the goal of the entire journey, ringed by the sun in a similar style to some artistic depictions of halos on holy figures. This is most noticeable while and immediately after the players surf through a tunnel from right to left, and in my opinion this religious imagery is another instance of thematic consistency, as the cutscenes in the game suggest that the journey is of religious importance to the wanderers. While the level design in Sunken City encourages players to feel comfortable by emphasizing and expanding upon elements and settings that are already familiar to them, the following level acts as a counterpoint to it by placing the two players in an area that, in both visual and gameplay design, stands completely at odds with the levels that came before it. The darkness and color palettes stand in contrast to those used in the entire game up until this point, and the cloth creatures evoke images of seaweed and jellyfish that, being native to an ocean, contrast with the game's desert setting. These cloth creatures also emphasize slower, more vertical gameplay as opposed to the quick forward motion through the Sunken City. Additionally, in the second half of the level, the players are finally faced with the stone creatures, which are the game's only real antagonists and the first thing in the game to truly threaten the players. Amidst all this new information, the only one element that is immediately familiar to you is your partner. Because this level is designed to be unsettling in comparison to those before it, it seems to me that the developers wanted to encourage you to rely on your partner, since one tends to cling to the familiar when in unfamiliar territory. It's a very effective way to get the players to rely on one another, especially since the trust is stronger by having experienced the joy of the Sunken City with the other player. Having built trust and camaraderie between the players over the previous 3 levels, the game has primed the players to be ready to trust one another for the journey ahead, when the real challenges begin. So, to bring it all together, the use of high contrast visuals as well as music and a sense of speed that stand at odds with those in the surrounding sections of the game work together to make Sunken City a memorable level on its own, and in addition, the level serves as an important bridging point in forming a strong relationship between the two players. Co-op play is nothing new to video games, but Journey's approach was and still is unique, and to me, this level is key in leveraging the developer's ambition so effectively. When you break down this level's strengths, to me it's pretty easy to see that this Sunken City rises to great heights. If you've watched the video this far, I'd like to thank you and encourage you to share your opinions in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, I hope you'll like and subscribe, and I hope to roll out more of these videos soon, so let me know what you enjoyed so I can try to include it in the future. For more updates and alerts to new videos, please follow my Twitter feed linked in the description and in the video. This is Max, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time when I break down another great level in gaming.